All right, thank you guys for coming out today. Today we're going to be talking about how we're proactively combating the national trend of organized retail crime in our area. We'll be discussing 3 different types of crimes that we're seeing and multiple arrests we've made in 6 different crews we've seen in this area. Today speaking will be Chief Kevin Davis, Deputy Chief Gregory Freed, our Major Joanna Culkin, who is our McLean District Station Commander, and our Virginia Alcoholic Beverage Control Authority Special Agent in Charge, Barbara Storm. Chief?
Thank you, Katie, and thank you all for covering this. Retail crime is serious business, and the Fairfax County Police Department is treating it as such. You've probably heard me speak about retail crime a number of different times. The crime committed most often in Fairfax County, just like other jurisdictions, is the crime of theft. It's the most voluminous crime committed in practically every jurisdiction in America. I've learned over the years to speak differently about theft because people tend to gloss over it as a victimless property crime, and it is anything but a victimless crime. The retailers certainly are victimized by it. Consumers are victimized by it as well with rising prices and other distractions and changes to their shopping experiences. So I've taken out of my vocabulary the term theft and I've replaced it with retail crime. And with retail crime, we are seeing in the last several years, not just in Fairfax County, but across the country, more and more organized retail crime. So you're going to hear about some crews today that are responsible, and we're going to talk about 3 cases with a few different crews that are responsible not only for organized retail crime here in Fairfax County, but up and down the East Coast and across the country, and we're going to talk about some of those other states across America that have been hit. Just to give you some numbers about where we are with retail crime in Fairfax County, and again, it relates to where the nation is seeing this crime trend continue to enhance. In calendar year 2022 in Fairfax County, we experienced about 5,800 thefts. In calendar year 2023, we experienced about 8,100 thefts. So retail crime is, particularly post-COVID, something that we've been challenged to deal with here in Fairfax County. The National Capital Region, our partners in the DMV have been challenged with it as well. Our commitment is robust. We have dedicated detectives, we've dedicated teams, we've dedicated resources to combat this crime. And from the commitment of resources that we've attached to retail crime, I'm really proud of the fact that in calendar year 2023, we made arrests in 70% of our retail crime cases. That is a very high closure rate. And it's only because of our commitment and the resources that we dedicate to this crime. Major Joanna Culkin is here. She's our McLean District Commander because so many of the folks in the retail community have businesses in the McLean Patrol District Station area, and she has dedicated teams under her command that deal with retail crime, and we've also expanded those retail crime teams across the county. The vendors, Axon, as you probably know, is the vendor who is responsible for our body cameras here in Fairfax County, and I dare say probably throughout most of the National Capital Region in the country. They've realized the uptick in retail crime, and they've introduced a product that they call Axon Body Workforce, and retail folks across the country are increasingly taking advantage of an opportunity to outfit their employees with a version of a body camera so they can gather better evidence to share with the police to particularly identify and hold accountable arrests and prosecute these crews that are responsible for an increasing number of retail crimes across the country. So it's not just something that law enforcement is focusing on, retailers are focusing on it as well, and the folks that have historically and traditionally outfitted American police departments with tools of the trade are expanding the outreach with their tools to the retail community as well. So I expect you'll hear more about that in the days ahead. I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Chief Greg Freed. He's going to go over these three crimes and the crews associated with them, the arrests associated with these cases that we're really proud of our detectives, and some of the outstanding suspects.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the commander of our Criminal Investigations and Cyber and Forensics Bureau. I'm going to run through some of the cases that the Chief had highlighted here this morning. The first cases we're going to talk about is a Chanel robbery that took place in Fairfax County. We were tracking a crew that had been stealing merchandise from multiple high-end retailers in the states that are indicated on this map here. The crew's MO is to bring a fire extinguisher with them, and they discharge the fire extinguisher the moment that they encounter loss prevention personnel. Then they come into the store, the establishment, and they steal the merchandise, and they're out. And in this case, they were out with under 15 seconds. They're in and out real quick, and it makes it hard for capture on them. They committed this robbery at the Chanel store on June 25th, 2024, and stole over $60,000 worth of merchandise on that day. After an extensive investigation, our detectives identified Ontrell Cunningham, who drove the getaway vehicle in the Chanel robbery. In partnership with the U.S. Marshals, our detectives were able to get warrants for Cunningham, and he was arrested in Pennsylvania, and he was held on no bond. Once he's extradited back here to Fairfax County, he'll face charges for robbery, larceny with intent to sell, conspiracy to commit a felony, assault via a caustic substance, organized retail theft, destruction of property, and petty larceny. We've also identified Martina Lyons and Abdullah Robinson as members of this crew, and we're working with our law enforcement partners to locate them. We're actively seeking 4 additional suspects that were a part of this crew, and we're asking anyone with any information, if they're able to identify them, to please reach out to us and assist us in this investigation. Next case that we'll discuss, we have labeled them the AirPod crew, and they are responsible for thefts at the states indicated on this map across the country. They've been stealing also from high-end retail stores, and we call them the AirPod crew because they come in and they work in conjunction with each other, using AirPods to communicate with each other to try to disguise what they're doing. In the county, they've stolen from multiple high-end retail stores and have stolen over $35,000 worth of merchandise. Our officers were able to identify and arrest Javier Velasco Puebla and Kevin Brian Espinoza in this case. Puebla was charged with 3 counts of grand larceny, 3 counts of conspiracy to commit larceny, 2 counts of stolen property with intent to sell, and possession of burglarious tools. Espinoza was charged with 2 counts of grand larceny, conspiring to commit larceny, 2 counts of stolen property with intent to sell, and possession of burglarious tools. They were released on a $2,500 unsecured bond. We're also looking to identify 2 additional members of this crew who've committed crimes in Fairfax County, and their pictures are indicated there, and we're asking anyone with information about them to please reach out to the police. The next case that we're going to talk about are the ABC larcenies. We've been investigating a series of ABC larcenies involving multiple crews at Virginia ABC stores in our county and surrounding jurisdictions. And the special agent that is here with us from the ABC will talk more specifically about ABC. These crews typically go into the ABC stores and they steal liquor. Some of the suspects, they go into the back room of the stores and they steal the high-end liquor that is there, or they grab stuff that they can get easily so they can make a quick getaway and get out of the store. And then, as you see in this picture here, they sell the alcohol on the street that they ultimately end up stealing from the stores. Connected to the first crew that we've been able to identify, we have made an arrest of Joe Maurice Evans, who was arrested and charged with 5 counts of grand larceny, 5 counts of larceny with intent to sell, 5 counts of transportation of alcohol, 5 counts of contributing to the delinquency of a minor, and destruction of property and organized retail theft. We also charged 3 juveniles in this crew with 3 counts of grand larceny and larceny with intent to sell. We have 3 additional suspects who we're currently seeking to identify, and they are responsible together for 13 ABC larcenies in Fairfax County. And the folks that we're trying to identify are still are there on the screen, so we ask for anybody's assistance with that. The second crew, we're seeking to identify 4 suspects who committed 3 ABC larcenies in Fairfax County. And the third crew, we arrested Linnell Jennings and charged him with grand larceny, possession of stolen property with intent to sell, conspiracy to commit larceny, and petit larceny. He was released on a $2,500 bond. We're also seeking the identities of 2 additional suspects that are pictured there. Together, they are responsible for 2 ABC larcenies in Fairfax County. The fourth crew, we are seeking to identify a lone individual who is responsible for 4 ABC larcenies in Fairfax County. And of all these cases that I just discussed for the ABC stores, they've stolen over $80,000 worth of merchandise from ABC stores and have sold it on the streets to individuals. So I, again, ask if anybody has information on the folks that we are still trying to, the suspects that we're still trying to identify in these cases, please reach out to us. And I want to take the opportunity to thank the retailers that have worked so closely with our detectives and our federal partners to make progress in these cases.
Good afternoon, everyone. Virginia ABC is continually reviewing and implementing changes at its retail stores to better deter and detect organized retail theft. Locks are being installed to restrict access to the stockroom area. Enhancements to Virginia ABC safety cameras are underway. Of course, no product in our store is worth risking the safety of our team members and our customers. Accordingly, a new shoplifting safety training program facilitated by Virginia ABC's Bureau of Law Enforcement is being rolled out to our retail leadership team and our store employees. Our retail staff are being trained to gather usable suspect information and leads for law enforcement. Virginia ABC values our partnership with Fairfax County and other regional law enforcement agencies in a continuing effort to deter and detect organized retail crime. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Drew?
Is it a crime to knowingly purchase stolen merchandise? Like if you're buying a bottle of liquor on the side of the street in Virginia, is that right?
I think it can be under certain circumstances. We are primarily interested in identifying and arresting the people who commit the crime. But if there's some education that we can do or some enforcement that we could possibly take, if we can reach that threshold of someone participating in a conspiracy or by knowingly purchasing something that's obviously stolen, the same conversation pertains to pawn shops and Facebook Marketplace as well. So sometimes it gets a little bit complicated, the letter of the law, but it's not something that we're not willing to look at if the right circumstance presents itself.
This might be obvious, but some of the charges for the Chanel one, I don't know what this word means. Assault by caustic or is that the?
A cost, right. Matt?
Is it safe to assume Fairfax County with a lot of high-end retail, does that make you a larger outsized target for these out-of-state groups?
I think it makes us very vulnerable. It's not news to anyone that Fairfax County has a really world-class retail community. And on top of that, we have a commitment not just from the police department, but from the Board of Supervisors and our elected officials to pay attention to crimes that impact the larger Fairfax County and National Capital Region community. So, so many people come here, even if they don't reside in Fairfax County, to shop and to entertain themselves and go to dinner. And that's why, one of the reasons why our commitment to safety is so high. Just kind of hearkening back to my comments about yesteryear's outlook on theft, particularly the term shoplifting, which is a diminishing term that I try not to use. It's not little Johnny stealing a Three Musketeers bar. It's not a mother stealing formula to feed her children. Those kind of images get conjured up still when we talk about the crime of shoplifting. And you all can see, and it's included in your media packages, the very low bonds associated with these arrests. These folks are hitting the jails for a day or two before they attend a bond review hearing, and their bond is either eliminated or dramatically reduced, and they're back on the street. So part of the conversation for the criminal justice system is this is the most often committed crime here and elsewhere. And what we're doing about it from a law enforcement perspective, I think is consistent with the trends and patterns that we're seeing. The other legs of the criminal justice stool, I would encourage to also take seriously these folks that we are bringing criminal charges against, because there has to be a consequence associated with their criminal behaviors. There has to be, and it has to be more serious than it is now. Drew?
When you talked about the new Axon product, is that something that the retailers are, is Axon just going to them and selling this product, or are they working through you guys? Like, how does that?
So Drew, I offered the Axon example of their product. It's called Body Workforce. It's a body camera. And they've introduced it on their own, not through any law enforcement organization, to the retail community. And a lot of our conversations, the police detectives in particular, conversations with retailers surround the collection of evidence. It's always great if we're there. And we have a lot of detectives who are assigned to retail communities and environments, and we do make a lot of immediate on-scene arrests, and we do get there very quickly, but oftentimes we get there after the crime has been committed and the bad guys are gone. So the ability of retailers to better collect evidence, and there's no better way, as you know, to collect evidence than to capture someone's image on camera. So that puts us in a better place. It ultimately puts prosecutors in a better place as well, particularly for the cases that make their way to juries, because juries have this expectation, oftentimes unreasonable, that any time a crime is committed, it must have been captured on camera. And it's increasingly true, but it's not always true. So to be able to have evidence collected that shows video, audio, and we can pull still pictures from that, only helps the criminal justice process.
Do you have any general idea of how widely this is being used in our area and
I think just introduced. I'm not aware of any, nor probably would I identify, because that's up to them. But I know it's being introduced, and it's a topic of conversation. And as law enforcement, and I speak for my peers as well, we're excited about the opportunity for our detectives to collect better evidence sooner, and to bring evidence inside a courtroom beyond the word of a loss or the observations of a loss prevention officer. Because every time we bring a loss prevention officer into a courtroom, and a lot of the retailers are frustrated by this fact, that loss prevention officer is not spending time in his or her store doing his or her job. So I do think it's something that's exciting. It's newly introduced to public safety, law enforcement, and I do think it's going to make a difference, not only with our ability to make arrests in a more timely manner, but with the capacity for people to be held better accountable once they get inside of a courtroom. Matt,
One specific question on that Chanel robbery. I think there was a total of 7 people either arrested or suspected. And you said that particular crime was 15-second. Were all 7 of those involved in that one specific rob, or is that?
Yes. So Cunningham was the driver. Lyons served as the lookout, and then the other individuals went into the store and committed the larceny or robbery. Yeah.
I'm sorry, they seem to know exactly which case they're going to and where the things that they want are. They've taken this place out, they know the store.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's a common setup. They know that they're going to go in, grab as much as they can as quickly as possible, and make a quick escape.
I'm not sure if this was mentioned. When did your investigation into this start, and are you involved? Are you in contact with agencies outside of law enforcement agencies outside of Fairfax County and outside of the state?
Yeah, well, I'll let Deputy Chief Freed answer the first question, but we're in constant contact with National Capital Region law enforcement agencies, the greater DMV, and nationally. This is a national topic of conversation that's occurring right now with the Major Cities Chiefs Association, which we're a part of, with the International Association of Chiefs of Police. Every time we gather, and we gather quarterly, across the country, this topic of retail crime, particularly organized retail crime, surfaces. And I will say, and I'll give Virginia and the legislature credit, because a couple of years ago they passed an organized retail crime statute. We've only been able to charge that organized retail crime statute a handful of times because the threshold is, in my opinion, arguably a little bit too high. So I'm hopeful that next legislative season, perhaps we can take a look at the organized retail crime that the legislature passed and maybe strengthen it a bit to give Virginia's 250 some odd police departments the ability to charge more often the crime of organized retail crime. It's rarely charged, and we think it's rarely charged because the threshold is too high. And in terms of the start date of the investigation, I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but
Your ongoing investigation into organized retail theft.
I mean, that's an ongoing process. As they occur, the Chanel case happened on June 25th. That investigation began then, has been ongoing, and is still today. The AirPod crew that we discussed, when we encountered them this summer, we were able to, through an investigation, tie them to cases that happened in late 2023 and place charges on those as well. So just an example of how these are ongoing in the ABC cases as well, starting back in late spring, early summer, and throughout the summer. And then we've been working closely with ABC as well to try to combat that.
so if there's no more questions, I do want to thank Barbara Storm, the special agent in charge of ABC, because without her partnership, we wouldn't have gotten this far in our investigations. And they're willing to make changes in their own environments. They have to comply with things like fire code and ingress and egress and access. So sometimes it's more complicated than meets the eye. But Barbara and her team have been nothing but fantastic with us. I'll say the same thing for our retail community. Everybody is focused on this challenge. It's not just local, it's regional, it's national, and our detectives, and a couple are here today who did a lot of work on these cases, are investigating cases that their predecessors did not have to investigate nearly as often as we have to investigate them now. And they're developing a level of expertise at these investigations that ultimately will put us in a position to win the day at the end of it all.
Just have a quick, what do you tell the consumers out there, the people that go out there and shop and things like that, when they're surrounded by all this madness?
I would say most of the times it's not madness. Most of the times it's subtle in nature. If you're inside of a store and you're simply a consumer, whether it's a grocery store or a retail store, believe what you're seeing. If you see something that looks out of sorts, or if you see something that appears to be a crime in progress, don't just be a bystander. Don't turn the other cheek. Either go to someone in the store and point it out to them, or call 911 yourself. I think a lot of times when we see something happening in front of us that's a crime or some type of disorder, we tend to not believe what we're seeing. But if you see it, it probably is what you think it is, and minimally bring it to the attention of the folks in the store so they can get law enforcement or their loss prevention folks started, or call 911 yourself. I'm not encouraging anybody to take action. I want to be clear with that. But believe what you're seeing. It probably is what you think it is, and bring it to someone's attention so law enforcement or the appropriate loss prevention folks can get in front of it. Drew?
On the ABC front, I was working on this a couple of weeks ago, and the stats, the numbers, the dollar figure of total amount of loss is crazy. And year over year, it's way up. Are you finding that the dollar figure is more closely tied to higher end items that are being taken more regularly, or is the total amount of theft, are they taking more bottles? Like, how do you have any insight on kind of what's happening that we've seen the increase in at least the value of liquor stolen?
In the Northern Virginia larcenies, the theft is generally of high-value liquor items such as Patron, Hennessy. And I think that adds to the elevated dollar of loss.
Do you have, can you tell, do you have people coming from out of state to rob liquor stores, or is that more local?
We have suspects from all around the DMV.
I would say, Matt, if I could tag team this with you, Barbara, I would say with the Chanel and the Louis Vuitton cases, the AirPod cases, those are frequently people from out of state. But with the ABC robberies and the thefts that we've investigated, those are local and regional bad guys.
And I know you focused on crimes in Fairfax County, but in your communications with the region, does it seem to be happening more in Virginia than maybe it is in Maryland or in DC, or are those stores just as frequently targeted? Is there something?
Yeah, I don't want to guess with any degree of certainty, but I know, speaking with my peers in Prince George's and Montgomery and DC, that it's something that is impacting them as well. There's no doubt about it, and it's impacting the nation, or else it wouldn't be the topic of conversation that it is. I think we have to make sure that the criminal justice consequences match the seriousness associated with law enforcement responses to this growing trend. I think sometimes law enforcement will enhance our response to an emerging trend or pattern, and then the rest of the criminal justice system just naturally kind of catches up with it. And what I'm saying is it's now time to catch up with it. We can't be handing out low bonds to these folks who are serial bad guys impacting our community, and we have to attach some consequences at sentencing.
Is that the judges or the prosecutors or?
Well, the whole criminal justice system is responsible for the quality of the cases, and not just the arrest itself, but the quality of the cases. But once it gets inside of a courtroom, I think the conversation for the criminal justice system is to make sure that the community expectations associated with this crime match what's happening within the criminal justice system. Thank you all.
Thank you all so much for coming out. Today we discussed a lot of different cases with a lot of different suspects. We will be sure to be posting all the releases. We'll have numerous releases on our blog, and we will link to those on social media so they can outline both the details of the cases, the suspects we've arrested, and particularly the ones we would like to identify. Thank you guys so much.